participants, let me welcome Pricey, our first MBA student, to give the welcome speech. Pricey, over to you.
Okay, sir. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I am Pricey Priyadashni, doing first year MBA here to welcome you all for today's Corporate Connect. Today, we will have a very interesting interactive session on design, an integral part of business success. Design thinking is an integral part of any successful innovation process. In fact, design is innovation, and that using design thinking is the only way to innovate. Design opens up valuable opportunities for businesses. Its importance is often underestimated, but good design can bring some significant business benefits. To know more about the design and how design can be an integral part of the business success, we have Mr. Sisirnath Sangireddy, Creative Lead of Interaction Design at the Global Design Center of Epiroc AB Sweden, with us today. We welcome you, sir. Also, I welcome all the participants for today's Corporate Connect. Now, I request my friend Maharaja to introduce the speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon to one and all present over here. Mr. Sisirnath Sangireddy is the award-winning designer by profession and entrepreneur by passion. He is currently working as the creative lead of interaction design at Global Design Center of Epiroc AB.
Maharaja, is it over, the introduction?
Maharaja, unmute yourself. You have got on mute, please.
Plays an active role in various ISO committees. He involves himself in consulting startups and expanding his understanding of human behavior, technology, and businesses in his spare time. He is an alumni of DJ of Design 2004. Now I would like to hand over the session to our beloved chief guest, Mr. Sisirnath Sangireddy. Please, sir.
Sisirnath, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for kind words and introduction. Let me start by sharing my screen. Are you all able to see my screen now?
Okay. Very well.
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Hello all. My name is Sisirnath Sangireddy. Friends and family call me Sisir, short. I am, as introduced in the introduction, a creative individual with an entrepreneurial mindset and a budding design philosopher, if I could say. What I mean by budding philosopher is basically try to search meaning and interconnections of how things work and how that could be decoded basically for other people to work with a particular subject. Today's topic is design as an integral part of business success. If you just Google for the word design and add any business terminology, there are lots of material available on Google. We actually would be presented with quite a lot of success stories, a lot of statistics, why design is important, and also some even present a maturity level to measure where your organization and design maturity is in your organization. So I would not be covering all of these specific success stories, statistics, and maturity level because the information is out there And what I would be focusing more on is actually how do we interpret that information and connect with the design as a specific domain and gain advantages from that in any business that is organizational setup. To do that, I would like to just bring you a little attention to my own journey. This is a timeline, or say a lifeline of my journey so far. I'm born in 80s. I have to very specifically say 80s. If you say born in 80s in world over, you connect with millennials, the people who have been associated with quite a lot of positive and negative buzz around the internet. But I have to say 80s in India is very special, because born in 80s in India means that you are exposed to exploring technological possibilities, exploring media possibilities, changing human behaviors and landscape. All of that for a person who has been very inquisitive has been very helpful. That facilitated me to continue on my path, on my career path. So I started with engineering, computer science specifically. And then it was not as I wished, because my personal alignment and the courses, the skill set that is required for computer science was not on top notch. So I have to find a way to pivot from engineering. So roughly about the third year of engineering, I kind of did a career pivot. So changed my domain to design. And then I took up industrial design, studied at the same beautiful campus you guys are located at. And after that, I worked very briefly at Godrej and moved on to Sweden to study further other specializations within the domain of design, visual design, and interaction design. After finishing my interaction design, I continued my professional career. And during that time, I have unconsciously became an entrepreneur, driving not only the domain part of it and the skill set, but also driving a result and communicating to different people, convincing them and so on to achieve certain results. And that also triggered with entrepreneurial approach. I started my own entrepreneurial journey. Precisely about 3 startups I've started in 2014, and not all of them are alive. One has gone further than other ones, but a lot of lessons learned during that period. And those lessons that I've learned as an entrepreneur, I share by coaching students and young people, and I also mentor other entities and organizations. So a decade and plus experience with organizations, what I realized is putting all of these things, everyone actually of us goes through this kind of a journey one way or the other. And you who are in school today are going to start your professional career and so on. And I was always wondering about how do we actually simplify this and then put it in a simplified formula to basically explain like what someone is capable of doing. So I kind of simply put in a formula in a sense, which basically is like this. This is my formula. It says that craft plus creativity plus experience multiplied by exposure equals to one's own competence. What do I mean by this? The craft is what we expose in our life and what we pick up in our education, different subjects, different topics, different things that we learn. Creativity is what you as an individual bring to that particular equation. And then the experience is practicing the craft with your creativity under various circumstances, that is exposure. Once you've actually done this multiple times over a certain period of time, it is not directly proportional to the amount of years you spend, but it is basically dependent on how much or how soon you've been exposed to things. That's why it's multiplying factor of exposure. That is what is building your competence. Such competence are associated with individuals and professionals. And we professionals with varying competences all come together to work in a setup called organization. An organization is a living entity. It consists of various professionals, various competencies, and they all collaborate and work together towards a common goal. And the common goal is going to be very rewarding when the organization's goal and individual's goal are aligned and multiply the results. When I refer to an organization, the organization comes in various form factors. It could be a startup, it could be an established company, it could be a standalone organization, or it could be part of another organization that is an internal function or an internal group. Nevertheless, the composition of an organization doesn't change. It consists of various professionals, various competencies, and they all have to collaborate together towards the motto of the organization, that is to develop, deliver, and sustain one of the two things. Any organization, whatever it could be, educational institute, big companies, whatever it is, they do one of these two things. They deliver products or services or a combination of both of them. Okay. So I would come back to this one if you have any questions, but I want to basically generalize this. This is also kind of my realization that basically these are the two things that organizations do, whatever the organization is. Okay. Now, going to the next part of it, when we take the product and services of designed and developed and sustained by organizations, to sustain, you need to basically put the products and services into a market. And sometimes you also have to do combinations of those things. If a product alone cannot sustain, you bring in a service, and if a service alone cannot sustain, you bring in a product, and then you put them in combinations, and then you put it into the market. And then when we go to the market, we actually measure it with various bell curves and various graphs. And what we actually measure is how much profit are we making? Can we sustain as an organization? Is it getting a nice traction or not in the market? But the harsh reality is that 70% of newly launched products and services fail to gain traction. To put it in a positive side, at least 30% manage to get that required market traction, and the organizations sustain, that is, they become profitable and they kind of live on. Okay. Probably you guys know the definition of market traction, but to have a common base for all of us, I would like to put one market traction definition, which actually I kind of like for the simplicity. The definition is qualitative. It is a qualitative evidence of market demand. In other words, it is also simplified as traction is proof that somebody wants your product. This is quoted by a Mr. Naval Ravikant. He is a venture capitalist and a co-founder of Angel List. So he very well knows about startups and businesses and what actually happens when it comes to the market traction and so on. Here, I would like to take a moment on each of these statements. When we are talking about market traction, we should be probably talking about quantitative data, numbers and data. But whereas here, Naval is quoting that it's a qualitative data. That is something that you cannot simply put in the numbers. You need to talk with people, engage with people, like follow them and observe them and so on. It is a very softer aspect of it. It's almost like asking someone, have you liked going to a market, going to a place? That's all the qualitative part of it. but then we can basically cannot simply put a number on 60% people like it just because we sold so many tickets. It cannot be sold, said in that way. So the qualitative evidence is something that points to the human behavioral side of it than actually some statistics. And as I pointed out in the beginning, when we look up for this Google search and so on, the statistics comes up and certain other measurement units and comes up. That is basically quantitative evidence, which is not straight away connected to the market traction. And when we're also talking about traction being somebody wanting a product, there is a huge difference between somebody wanting a product and somebody needing a product. Majority of the organizations deliver and sustain products and services which are nice to have. So want is actually a nice to have. You can get on with life if you don't have them, but they might simplify a bit, but it's not a need. There are types of organizations also which actually address the need specifically, but acceptance, that is actually the market traction, is the same for both kinds of or all kinds of organizations. So what I wanted to establish here is basically when we're talking about a market traction, a number and so on, there is actually a lot of human desires, wants, needs, and cultural or social behaviors that are connected with these things. To break it down to the top level of a particular product, a product when it is made, or a service when it is made, the organizations generally, I'm generalizing it. I'm not saying that there are not other organizations, but I'm generalizing it here, saying that certain organizations, or all organizations at least, try to push the cost down, the manufacturing cost down, so you could actually offer at a reasonable price and then increase your profitability. You also come up with a good set of features, an optimal level, sometimes even more, depending on how much competition you have out there and so on. And then you target your message about the product and its features and the pricing to people through AdWords and so on. Okay. Now, how do we still, like, this approach still doesn't address the making somebody want our product and need. So I believe that we need to basically adopt an ecosystems perspective that will reveal alternative professional approaches and boost market traction of any organization. From now, I will break it down, each one of these things, what I mean by ecosystem perspective, approaches, and market traction. Let's take ecosystem first. And for the simplicity, we take a self-contained pond. An ecosystem is actually a community of living organisms in conjunction with non-living components in their environment. They could also be interacting together, both with living and non-living things as part of the system, and their interrelationships in that particular space maintain a certain level of balance. Now, when we look at a biological ecosystem like this, we can identify a certain set of species, and same species together are referred to as population, and then the interactions between each species is referred to as dependency. Why am I talking about ecosystems when we're talking about organizations, business, and design, and all of those things? Is the reason is organizations are a kind of an ecosystems. To draw a simple parallels, the species in this ecosystem are equal to different professionals in an organization. And a group of professionals delivering a certain value to the organization are referred to as population in our business ecosystem. So here the examples could be an HR organization within an organization. It could be the technical engineering teams. business teams, marketing teams, communicating teams. They're all different populations. That means they all have a certain specialization and professional experience. So they are kind of a certain kind of a species within the organization. But they all have certain dependencies within the organization and so on. Now let's see, what if we take the ecosystem perspective and then try to work with that a bit more. Now let's take the pond again. And then here we say, we want to basically prospect for food. And we want to get to the result of a satisfactory meal. If we only had this one ecosystem, as we have certain sort of species, we know about this particular ecosystem specifically. And then as the old saying goes, don't give a person fish, teach them how to fish. That means give them the tools so that they actually can do the work better and apply methods and so on. So let's assume that we have the tool, we're given it to a particular professional person, and then they're actually trying to get the result of a satisfactory meal. In this particular perspective and this particular ecosystem, we actually see that the approach that is actually taken is sports fishing, to be very precise, but fishing in general. And the method is basically angling, that is dropping a wire into water and then waiting for fish to catch it, using a bait. And the tool is basically made of a rod and a line. Okay. Now this is one simpler example to say that one ecosystem. Now we talked about an organization, and then I referred to HR and every specific professional belonging to a particular population. But then when we talk about the developing products and services, we need a certain set of populations to come together. And each population lives comfortably in their own ecosystems. Now, what if we see that the ecosystem is still the same, okay? But it's actually sitting as part of a bigger ecosystem. Okay, the water ecosystem is sitting in another ecosystem. Now we have the same prospect looking for food, and then we still need to get to the result of a satisfactory meal. Now, an open question to the audience. So what else, what other approaches can we take to get a satisfactory meal? Anyone would like to answer? If say we're not fishing. Fruits, really good. Anyone? Good, and we can move on. As you can see that when we expand the ecosystem, or we actually take stock of what is available in our ecosystem or in our organization, we can take a different approach. Like you mentioned, the fruits, basically the approach would be to actually gather things, right? And the method would be to pluck the fruits. And then the tools would be bare hands, or depending on other things, you need some other tools to climb the trees and so on. Apart from that, you can also take alternative approaches. Now, when we look at the ecosystem of this particular space, you can take basically fishing. You can go for hunting animals. You can go for gathering fruits, honey, or other things. You can even cultivate depending on the time and stuff. And then each approach would give you different kinds of methods, and each method would bring in different kind of tools for you to work with. Now, if we bring that understanding back to our organization, in an organization, we are prospecting to develop products and services so that we actually get a profitable business as a result of all of the prospecting. The current approach to these things is by focusing on methods and tools. majority. So sometimes we employ all the methods and tools that are available, and maybe the organization doesn't have or facilitate other types of approaches. Maybe it doesn't have those other ecosystems. And now in this case, we're talking about, say, design specifically. And then what we do, or the organizations do basically, is borrow methods and tools from other domains, but not change the approach. So if I put that in the organizational hierarchy, we are focusing, or majority of the organization currently focus on the tactical and the operational levels, but not on the strategical level. That means we're actually trying to focus, our organization majority try to focus on the efficiency part of it, but not the effectiveness. So doing the thing right, but not the right thing. That is one of the biggest gaps to basically get a full benefit from utilizing design as an approach, its methods, its tools, and complementing them with other approaches that the organization has. Okay. Now, if we revisit our definition of a qualitative evidence of market demand, we talked about qualitative evidence being observing people. It's softer aspects of why a particular decision is made. And then we put that to the organization, and then we say in the context of a product or a service that we are delivering, what kind of approaches that we need to take to basically make people want our product or a service. One of the approaches could be marketing approach. You can basically advertise. You can also take a manufacturing approach. You can take a business approach, that is actually change the business model, and so on, so on. But that would mean like we are fishing in the same pond. We're not looking for other things that are available for us to change our perspective and then take that particular approach. Now, if we have to make our users and customers want our products, we basically need to get an understanding of what they are thinking, why they're actually resisting, or why they're actually liking our product, so that the next product and service could actually cash on from that particular learning. And can anyone guess like what other approaches can we take in a particular organization, or when it comes to improving the traction?
So new product development.
New product development. So that would be, okay.
Acquisitions.
Acquisitions, yeah. So the new product development and acquisitions are still, say, a kind of a method under a certain approach. So acquisitions and new product development. Acquisitions fall under the business approach. So the method is by acquiring them, you actually get different expansion of tools and methods. Then that's why you would acquire. When we acquire a particular company, we acquire because they have good skill set, or they have a competency that we don't have, or a product that they have that we want to bring into this thing. So that's a marketing kind of an approach in my understanding. And then when we come to the new product development, that is, we can take basically an engineering approach, or we can take a unified approach as well. Good examples of those things. But when it comes to understanding, when both of those things still doesn't give us the approach of understanding the users and customers, what makes them want our product or service. We can acquire another company. We can actually develop a new product, but we want to make them want the existing product and service. So what else we can do? I would move on without grilling too much, basically. So the design. Sorry.
Somebody is coming in. You can unmute yourself and participate, students.
Branding or rebranding can also be looked at, right? In case.
Yes, so rebranding can also be done. That would be basically a method and with certain tools leading to a result of advertising or communication.
Right.
So we're still back to the marketing approach. It falls under again the communication or marketing approach. Still, we're not directly attacking the mindset of our customers and people. Thank you for the question, sir. Then the design is that kind of a magic word that everyone is looking for. Okay, if we put design underneath the company or bring that as a foundation as part of our things, then we would be able to magically understand what people think, and then we basically make them fall in love with our products and queue up. But actually, it's not that simple because design is quite broad. So let's understand designers to get to the domain of design. And so what does designers are made of, in a sense? So designers, like in any approach, as sense, they do prospect for certain things to get a certain result. They take quite a few different approaches, methods, and tools. And as I put in the beginning, all of these prospecting, what is the right way to what is the right approach to, and what is the right method and the tool to achieve a certain result, is a collection of experiences and exposure with the skills and things that a particular professional have learned and mastered during his career within an organization or with multiple organizations. So now let's take a simpler example, and I would like you guys to maybe answer. So if you take a domain of doctors, okay? So doctors prospect to basically diagnose, and doctors look for curing as a result. And they have different approaches, methods, and tools. Now, if say we have a problem with our eyes, whom would we contact? Anyone?
Ophthalmologist.
Thank you, sir. If we have broken a leg, who do we contact?
Orthopedicians.
Thank you. If we have a problem with our skin, whom do we contact?
A dermatologist, sir.
Thank you, Divya.
Yes.
Skin. If we have some stomach pain, where do we go?
Gastroenterologist.
Gastroenterologist. So now all the doctors that you talked about are very specialized under the domain of medicine. Now, if we continue further with the same exercise, if we go to the ophthalmologist, and then how would he diagnose the problem? What kind of methods and tools he might use?
He'll make us to sit and ask us to read a chart to understand the vision status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By implanting lenses.
Yeah. So that's there's a combination of a particular method that he's using. You can use the old school way of just making you sit from a distance and read a particular chart, or you can use the new age tools, go to the machine and then check your eyes computer way. But both of them are, a chart is a tool and the computer aided testing equipment is a tool, but the method is the same. So the one method would give you different tools. Now, Divetya, going to your dermatologist. So what method and tools the dermatologist might use?
Vedya?
So it wasn't audible, sir. Once more, sir.
What methods and tools a dermatologist would use to give you a cure?
Sir, laser technology.
Laser technology. Laser technology is a treatment method, and the laser is basically a tool, right? So laser specifically, it is one of those. What is it called? Now I'm losing the words here. Can anyone help out what that method could be? Laser, where it would fall under the tool? Cosmetic. It's a cosmetic improvement method, right? And then the tool is laser. You could have various other things. Thank you, Divya. So these are the different things. So now, what if, this is, we all understand, but we are not doctors. We understand very clearly where to go and so on. Sometimes even we actually go to a medical shop and ask, can you give me that medicine? Right? That's another approach as well. We don't have to go to doctors. But what if we go to a doctor, we don't know, if we are not aware of dermatologist, we're not aware of an ophthalmologist and so on, we have a problem. Okay? We need to get the result. The result is as simple. I want to get fit. I want to be normal, basically. And you go to a doctor. Let's say instead of going to a dermatologist or instead of going to a orthopedic doctor, you went to a doctor, okay? And you have a broken leg. What will happen?
Maybe he may treat, may not treat, or he may refer.
Yeah. So based on the type of methods and tools he has practiced and the professional feels comfortable, he would do what is right in that particular professional practice. That is the approach. So if he is a general physician and the leg has just basically something that he can fix, he probably would apply one of those methods and tools and give you a band-aid. Or if it is an emergency situation that there is no doctor nearby, it's in the middle of the night and you have to travel 100 kilometers, he probably still use some methods and tools which he's not practicing, but he's aware of to cure the patient. But a good practitioner specializing in a particular approach would refer to a particular practitioner who specializes in a different approach. Okay, like in this case, he would refer to a doctor who can treat the severity of the patient. So the doctor analogy is very simple to understand, very easy for us to do that. But when it comes to design, it is very complicated because can you tell us now, as we said very comfortably, 4 different type of doctors and so on, what kind of designers are out there? So we talked about what kind of doctors. So what kind of designers are there? And now we're talking about specifically products and services.
So we know product designers, communication designers, and interaction designers, because that is what we teach in our college. So probably people who are specialized, like at the PG level, there are some people take up specifically product design. Some people take up communication design. Some of now interaction design is catching a big way, and then animation, film design. Many such specializations have come up. So that is from the academic perspective. But I am trying to. I think what you want is probably furthermore, like, is there any specific designers whom we should approach for a particular part of, if that is what you are expecting, we really don't have that much visibility.
No, that's a good answer, sir. Thank you very much. there's no wrong answer. I just wanted to mention, like, when this kind of a question comes up in a general organization, okay, they are basically aware that, oh, we need to go to a designer. Like when you talk about a doctor, when you talk about an engineer, same as doctor, engineer also, we can very easily say hydraulics or whatever, different breakdowns, and we can very easily pick the particular
Uh,
approach and then
uh,
go to that particular specialist.
I would like to
Yeah.
contribute something. My name is Revati. I have basically an advertising background. And in those days, we used to have something called design hotspots, or, uh, something as smaller design shops, where their basic work was revolving around ideation. It can be the design of a logo or some form of communication. So it was all focused on the ideation part of it at that point of time. And once that ideation is done with reference to, say, the colors or a logo or some emblem, and then it's passed on to the other respective client or an agency. So these shops were concentrating on that.
Where were these shops present, ma'am?
These were small, small, I can call them a mini agencies, but they were just concentrating on the design part of it. There was no prospecting or anything, just the ideation, developing, and suppose the client says, I wanted a logo for this particular product. So the all the brainstorming happens and the design is created for a new logo, a new name for a product and stuff like that. I mean,
Yes.
I worked in
Thank you very
Madras,
much.
at that point of time.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. And as Captain was also saying that, because in DJ Academy, we are actually blessed to have these two side by side. So we kind of exposed to this, like we are exposed to doctors, we're exposed to what designers can do and what business people can do. But when it comes to the normal organizations part of it, as you're also mentioning, Revati ma'am, that people come asking for a result. Like when it comes to within organizations or outside organizations, doesn't matter. They come for a result directly. I want a logo. I want a film. I want this. But actually, if they have defined what the problem is, they would actually go to the right. They take the right approach, and then that leads to the right design professional to be used as part of developing products and services. I just wanted to bring that kind of a little parallel from how much we know about other fields, and then generally organizations not being so very well aware of the spread of designers. And that's not any organization's fault as such, and that's not anyone's fault as such, because the way any skill, basically, as we talked about the doctors, engineers, and everyone else, we learn different skills of prospecting, and then we deep dive into a particular profession domain. And then when we go to the professional domain, we kind of specialize in different subjects, and each subject brings in certain topics, which we actually put into test during our education. And then we do the same when we come to the companies and so on. Now, simply drawing that to the design side of it, the general approach or the general prospect that designers, whether it is a communication designer or whether it is an interaction designer, business designer, service designer, whatever scale that they're addressing, the basic prospect that they do is to understand the human behavior and cater to their needs and wants. If we talk about just the first, the graphical part of it, it has to be pleasing, easy to understand, and so on and so on. But still, the result is basically they need to see, oh, it's nice. I probably need that, or it feels good. I want to look at it again, and so on. And if you go to the extreme strategical side of it, business design and other things, it still is understanding the human behavior and make sure that the contribution, the people actually want and need the product and services and so on. To do that, there are different kind of approaches. You can take empathic, ethnographic, and research. These are just a sample of approaches that the designers can take. And each approach, if they dive deeper and spend the time, then they would be specializing in each of these approaches. And then each approach also brings in a certain kind of a method. Design thinking is one of those methods, and under which you can also have industrial, that is physical design tools, digital design tools, and visual design tools, basically. And they are broadly grouped under methods as well, industrial design method, interaction design method, and visual design method, but eventually they're all delivering a product or a service. So it's basically physical tools or digital tools and visual tools as such. Some of these methods and tools, design fraternity has done a good job in terms of marketing or talking about these things. Some bigger studios and successful companies, the top 5%, have been able to propagate design thinking or other. This is kind of a brand called design thinking, but it actually is based on empathy, that is human-centered design approach as such. So when this is out there without actually knowing what kind of an approach it belongs to, which kind of a professional does it, it's almost like in our medical example, going to the shop and asking, give me an Alvedon, give me a paracetamol, or give me a Band-Aid. You basically need to get to the doctor. Don't do the self-diagnostics, that is, don't apply the methods and the tools yourself, because you're not that particular professional. Now, taking another simple analogy, one more just to clarify on this one is, we would like to, assuming we catch the fish and we want to make some nice fish curry, okay, we refer to some YouTube video, we say, awesome, nice, we look at that and we make it. Okay, the YouTube video explains a particular method and certain tools and ingredients that you want to make and so on. You make it, but you remember you had that particular curry in that restaurant, it didn't taste the same, because it is made by a professional chef who actually understands the approach to treating the fish, treating the ingredients and other things. So by just taking the method and the tools, in this case, the fish and other spices, and sprinkling and making it, would not get us the same thing. So now I kind of spent a little time on trying to specifically say that we need to have a develop our own understanding of what this particular designer's approach or empathic or different things means. That means we need to expose ourselves and experience these things by working with those professionals and so on. And DJ Academy provides that really good platform to do that, to interact with designers and exchange these ideas. And that way we can actually get a much better, stable organizations outside. So now if we take the approach right perspective. So now, assuming that we have expanded outside of our ecosystem, that is from our business side of it and the HR side or the technology side and so on, and we take a different prospect, and then we can apply the different methods, approaches and tools that are available. So first thing is actually basically to redefine the suitable prospect based on the challenge at hand. At this point of time, even though before I mentioned that for an organization, the prospect is always about delivering innovative products and services, and the result is to have profits sustaining. But then say for this existing product and service, what we actually do is gain the market, because it's not gaining the market traction. So first is actually to redefine what we are actually prospecting, that is actually get to do the right thing. Then we can do the thing right by applying the methods and tools. So that means we basically get the right perspectives and the approaches, and with each approach comes different professionals and their own set of methods and tools. Each approach, that is the profession, owns a certain set of methods and tools and their own approaches as well. But sometimes we basically share either an approach, a method, or a tool when we are creating a product or a service. So organizations usually get confused between driving something or sharing something from owning something. So when I say a communication part is owned by communications people, it's not owned by say, a designer in that sense. So what is the message that is optimal in a sense is a collaboration between two professionals like the designer and the communication marketing people to come deliver a certain message. Similarly, when it comes to the user needs of a particular product and the service that is actually making people want, it is the approach of designers along with other approaches of marketing and so on share certain common methods like design thinking and common tools like canvases and other things to do to expose the insights and then deliver those products and services. So coming a full circle, it's not just a design which is part of a business which is crucial, it's actually a design approach which is actually integral part of a business. Okay. Then I thought there's no better way than, because I can actually talk about the tools and methods and so on, but there is no this talk is not actually to make you get into the nitty-gritty of how to be a designer or how to be a professional on this side, but just expose you so that we all can work together and then we can actually deliver good products and services and then add value to the organization. Now, I would like to take an example from any one of you. So anyone can suggest a product or a service that has been very well accepted in the market, like people really want it. You can pick a product or a service. I take that example, take some methods and tools and walk you through how, if we change our perspectives and then work together, what would happen. So anyone throw a product or service for me to continue further.
Any product in any category. Am I right, Sisir?
Yeah, yes, sir. As I said, the organizations, all organizations, any product, any category.
Students, any product or any service. Come out first.
That people absolutely love today. There is no problem for the organization to make money. They don't have to say it again and again. People just buy it. They use it.
Just a joke. Right now, it only applies to masks and hand sanitizers.
It might be a joke, man, but it's actually a really good point, because there also, I continue there, but I'll do this again. I probably would take a couple of examples so that we actually can go through. But let's take the masks and hand sanitizers. Okay. Now, for a mask and hand sanitizers, we are talking about a audience which is not limited to a culture. They're not limited to a particular gender. We're thinking about a product that is available for masses. So a method here, now I'm taking the same thing that I've showed you before, the methods, because that is easy to align with. So we have a method of design thinking. You can do the user research. You can do business design and service design. But this is a very specific physical product that we want to deliver to the market, which is actually people feel like they want to have it, or not feel like they want to have it and they need to have it, kind of. So what we can do is basically, if we jump to the design thinking part of it. So I talked about the different perspectives, right? So now a company which is making these products want to now make the general audience to buy specific products manufactured by them, because there might be 10 other companies manufacturing masks and so on. So what they would do basically is bring in different perspectives. Now, as I picked the business design thinking approach, so the approach is basically we actually get the business side of the people to say, okay, is it a business viable for our organization to enter? Can we actually manufacture these masks and sell them? Then we are also asking internally, bringing the different approach or the specific specialists, engineers, and say, okay, can we manufacture this quality of a particular mask and so on? And then we bring in the designers. Okay, if we manufacture this kind of mask with this particular pricing and this material, do you think that people would buy our mask compared to other masks available in the market? Then the designer has to put on one of these methods and tools to find out what actually would click their needs and wants. Maybe they will suggest a different pattern. They would suggest a different material. Maybe they would actually suggest, let's work with communications and say, tell a story about how you could be healthy if you use a mask. How you can keep your family and friends safe if you use a hand sanitizer, and so on and so on. When all of these different perspectives are brought together, that is when different take on the same topic, they're actually coming together to basically come to that one good product. And probably, as I said, the product sometimes needs a service and the service sometimes need a product. So maybe the hand sanitizer is actually surrounded by a service of, oh, we'll refill it as soon as you start consuming it. Okay, so that is what we're gonna ideate by bringing in these different perspectives and then different methods that are suitable for this particular product and service. Thank you for that question. I'll go back to if anyone has any other examples, I will be glad to take that. Was that okay? Run through the different perspectives, ma'am?
Students, you all have access. You can unmute and you can give your example to sir.
Sir, cars.
Sir, come again?
Cars, sir. Automobiles. Car.
Automobiles. Okay. So can you give me the result that you were expecting?
Sir, increase in sales.
Increase in sales. Okay. And what are we prospecting basically? What are we prospecting in terms of a specific market, a specific region, a geographic market or region or gender? What are we prospecting basically?
Sir, India, sir. We are targeting market is India.
India. Good. So for this kind of, when we talk about a proven product, and then we're also talking about the differentiation, market differentiation, because the product is it's not in demand. It's not like a need, like the masks and hand sanitizers. It's something people want. And there are a lot of things available out there, and then we need to create a market differentiator. So what we're actually prospecting is to create a market differentiator to increase sales of our cars. Okay. In that case, the approach or the tool that a designer or a creative professional might take might be business model. And and as the end kind of a result. But before that, what actually is more important, because it's very normal to we take the perspective of business increase in sales, and let's take the business model, offer some free stereo or free service or whatever, and then we can make it. But first, what we need to do is to take a slight step back and then pick a different tool. Okay, let's pick the value identification tool, basically. So when we're actually coming to the car, so why would people buy a car? We need to actually get to that particular question. So that we can do with basically understanding what are the things they do with the car, specifically talking about Indian market and then Indian customers. And then we can do it with market research, design research, or quite a lot of other material desk research, right? We can do that. We collect the jobs that they do with a particular car, and then we basically also understand what are the problems or the pains they have if they don't have a car which is affordable, or if they don't have a car which is big enough, because we spotted the things that they want to do with that. And by combining these two things, we actually are going to come to a particular gain. And this exercise is basically done in the jobs to be done is done more in interacting with people. The pains is done by gathering insights, and a combination of those two things would actually give you, sorry, the pains or insights. No, I'm actually saying wrong. Sorry for that. I track back. Jobs to be done are collected by researching people, various type of research methods. The pains are something that we note by observing people, not intruding what they do. And then when you combine both of those two things, we actually come to the gains part of it. So this is a particular method and a tool that can be used to identify the jobs to be done. Whether it is a existing car or you're developing a new car, it is always good to get to this point to get a clarity so that what all the jobs that our specific model, our car addresses in this particular market. If you're taking this approach as a beginning, then, well, you probably would be developing the amazing Nano specific to Indian market. But if you already have an existing thing, probably you add a little trim and then make it fit to the Indian market, like the Mahindra platforms that could be adopted in various things and so on. So that's the thing that you would do, and that's where you're building up your customer profile, and then you match that with a particular product as exists today, and what are the things that this particular product is solving. Let's say we don't have cars at this price segment with air conditioner. That's a pain. Oh, we have a air conditioner. Good, let's take that. That means we are actually giving them a gain of more affordable car and a comfortable car. So that is our value that we are proposing, and then we match those two things. And that is the first thing to say we take, and we communicate that back to our customers and check if that is actually gaining any market traction that you wished for as a result. If that still doesn't work, there are other tools in the arsenal, like the business model and so on. Maybe you can set it in a different way. And so that's thank you for that example. Anyone else has anything else that is more suitable for? No, anything. Throw any example. I'll try to walk you through how designers work with this thing with other people. What I'm saying is basically it's not just a designer sitting and working with these tools. Designers would bring in this kind of a approach and perspective and use the tools with other people to do this together.
Maybe in a service side, Sushi, like now we have this blah blah car, right? Which is more of carpooling service. Carpooling service. So if that we have to make it more attractive, or which approach we should take. It is purely a service, and currently it's given free of service also, right? Free of cost. And but how can we increase the traction in this?
Okay, so I think one of the previous speakers in one of those talks, they were talking about this last mile connectivity and so on, and this is like basically how do we come up with a service
Right.
of renting a piece of equipment. It could be a car, it could be a bike, and so on and so on, right? In that case, sir, this is a combination of a product and a service. Okay, there is, you need to have a product, whether you own a product or you basically partner with people and so on and so on. There are different dynamics that actually goes together when it is a soft aspect, intangible aspect, and a tangible element put together as a service, which is seamless. So in that case, actually, all of these that you're seeing in front of you are useful. You need to take the design thinking approach to basically say, what can we do from different sides of it? Do we need to actually make our own solutions, or we actually partner with someone and so on? And that design thinking you apply on the business model canvas. So I can jump into that now. The business model canvas, and that's where you actually try to map down all the things that you have done in the value identification and on the customer side of it. What makes people happy? So if I place 10 bikes outside our DJ Academy, would it make people happy? No, they want certain things to be done, not just done in a certain sequence. If we actually take the business model and then we say, okay, these are the values that we want to deliver in BlaBlaCar, that would be put using in the center of the canvas. again, this is not just a designer or a technology or the business side or someone. Everyone would do it together to say, agree on a common value that this particular service or organization would offer. And to offer that, would we actually have the capacity, money to buy those things, or do we need to partner with them? Where do we keep our focus? Do we actually focus on uh, our resources and so on? So broadly, to simplify it for the demonstration, I group them into different things. Back again from the design thinking, we basically see whatever we are offering, does it really matter for the people? Do they really want it? And how do we check they want it? How do we actually communicate that to those people? And then how do we actually maintain relationship so we know and adjust our offering to that particular audience? Then we come to the internal side of it. Can we actually build it ourselves? Do we have the engineering capacity? Do we have the financial capacity and so on? Do we need to partner with someone? Then we come to the end, most important, are we losing money? Sometimes if you're delivering a pure service, that is actually digital currency is exponentially, right? It's kind of multiple times of the emotional currency. So there we cannot really say, are we losing money or not? Because sometimes referrals and so on are much more important. But when you talk about this kind of a combination of a product as part of a service, then we need to really calculate the ins and outs of those things. And this is one of those tools or canvases that we use to uh, get to the prospecting of renting an asset for transportation. Does that
Yeah.
satisfy, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Sisir. Yeah.
So we have, I mean, I kind of crossed the 1 hour mark here. So if you guys have any questions, any other things we can take on. But just to move further with the presentation part of it, I have, that's basically it. I'm kind of summarizing it with your question and answers and summarizing the point I want to drive forward.
I have a question, Mr. Sisirnath. This is,
Yes,
there's a lot of talk about your UX design, user experience
Mm-hmm.
design. And mostly
Mm-hmm.
they talk about it's based on psychological factors,
Yeah.
which are incorporated into it. So, in your experience, using this as an example, how do you define these psychological factors?
Very good question, Revati. Thank you for that. So if I go back to this one, I said like design as a domain actually have uh, quite a lot of subjects. Like again, we don't go too deep into those subjects, but we're actually exposed to those subjects so that we actually practice them during our professional, say, career. So psychology basically is also it's quite broad, but what we're actually taught as subjects in school, depending on the kind of approach or the specialization one takes up. So if you take up as industrial design or interaction design, the one we are talking about experience part is basically nowadays taught across physical design, visual design, and digital design. But there, to be able to deliver a result that is connected to experience, the designers are taught few subjects. That is basically psychological aspects. That is individual psychology, corporate psychology in some cases, cultural psychology, and then those methods actually are those approaches actually gives rise to some specific methods, like a participatory design as a method, and then in participatory design you have different tools of interviewing, different tools of documenting, and so on and so on. So experience now again as simplified as because the methods and tools are so overexposed than the approach of designers. It also has been so watered down, I would say. When someone talks about experience, it's also watered down in a way. And if the designers is involved and that particular psychological input is taken into account. I don't know if I'm on the right thread still, Ma'am Prati.
Uh, uh, Actually, when we're talking about this desirability factors, maybe is that where a lot of these psychological, factors come into play when it goes into the building at the initial stage itself, right? You have to factor it all in at that stage.
Yes, ma'am. Any design, the broad domain of design, as I mentioned, whether it is the just the print to complex intangible solutions, like a physical thing to intangible solutions or services and so on. All of that, the designers basically take this human behavioral thing. So what actually would please to the masses? What is the general acceptance in terms of a particular market, a particular gender, or a particular region of the world, and so on? So that is the first thing that drives the approach that is picked up, in a sense.
Okay. Thank you, but I'd like you to go on with your presentation. I might come back to this from a different perspective at the end. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. The presentation is almost like those are the slides that I had, and that's what I wanted to basically talk and engage today. It's basically the point I would like to make. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sisir, of course, you were talking about the success rate. In one of your slides, you have mentioned almost 70% of the products and services, they do fail in the market. Of course, you seem to be very optimistic, but again, I'm given to understand more than 90% of the products and services, they do fail in the market. Hardly 8 to 10% of the products and services, they do succeed in the market. Okay. Now, you were talking about the whole approach, okay, like feasibility, desirability, viability, and so on and so forth. So definitely, so many things would have gone into while the companies are coming out with new products or services. Okay, definitely it is not a hodgepodge approach kind of. Just like that, they don't introduce any product or service. They go through all these approaches meticulously and then coming out to build a product or service to the market. Okay. So in spite of all those things, why do 90% of the products and services fail in the market? Where do we go wrong in terms of assessing or ascertaining the needs and wants of the people?
Yeah. Thank you for the question, sir. Just if I go back to this story part of it.
Yeah.
So this is my interpretation and my understanding of why or how can we increase the success rate of products and so on.
Yeah.
So here we looked at, first is actually when it comes to, we're talking about new products, whether it's an established organization or a new startup and so on. First is to actually be open to including different approaches as part of the new product or service development. That is the first thing. So if companies rightly identified the approaches or the right mix of professionals to create a product or a service, they pass the first test. Say the 30% of the 90%. Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing is, as I showed in the formula in the very beginning, the experience, the right experience and exposure. It's not just the method that someone, I bring in someone who has an approach of envisioning the future. And they have been exposed to methods and tools. So they need to have the right exposure and experience to use and employ those tools towards the common result that a organization wants to get to. Okay. And having said that, as I also mentioned, it doesn't have anything to do with the seniority.
Okay.
So companies try to confuse the seniority with the competence. They say we want 80-year experienced person. Maybe a fresh graduate from DJ Academy or any academy for that matter have exposed himself or herself so much in the life and in subjects that they are far better running compared to an 8-year experienced person. So there, the approaches that the organization takes, that is the HR and the business side of it, when they recruit this talent, the approach and the methods that they are using to even apply these methods and tools, that is in a second bottleneck. So they're failing there. That's the second 30%.
Right.
So the last 30% is basically once you have these things together, let's say assume that we have all the right competent people, right approaches, they are very good with the methods and tools. And internally, our own ecosystems have actually helped us, and then everyone came together. Really nice. Then it comes to basically some external factors. There are, for a particular product and a service to succeed, we could have the best of the product, best of the insights, best of everything. But if we don't come to the times or whatever is happening with the market changes, it might fail. That is, say, currently now, the COVID, that's one. And there are certain other external factors, like say regulations. So we might have been working on a car or a bike or something for 4 years, and suddenly the new, say, for example, the environmental law comes in and say Bharat 6 2021. We can't do much about it. So these are the factors. So these are three big chunks of things that if we take away, probably we can take away the 30% of the 90%. Again, this is my opinion.
Okay. That's good enough. See, my next question is with reference to design schools in India. Okay, though we do have a couple of good institutions in the country, in terms of number of designing experts who are coming out every year, seems to be very, very low when compared to some of the countries like Brazil or Belgium or whatsoever. I'm not very sure about it. But I'm given to understand we produce very, very less number of designers in India. Does it mean our companies have not come to the level of accepting the role of designers in their organizations?
Also very good question, sir. This is actually, first I would take that on a general professional level, and come down to the design part of it. Because one of the things is that India in general, since the early industrial revolution, we've been exposed to things quite soon, quite drastically. As I said, born in 80s, the explosion happened. And then when the explosion happened, we basically needed to have a certain skilled people with certain methods and tools. So we really didn't care to teach the approaches, but we just rather taught methods and tools quickly. You got to use certain things. That's the general approach part of it. But then, as we said, the organization is no different. As I talked about the organizational approach, methods, and tools, educational institutes are no different. They're also organizations. They have their own approaches, methods, and tools. So if they've taken the approach, that is, if they're prospecting to create eligible candidates for jobs, if that is the result they're aiming, then the approach, methods, and tools would affect the quality of the result, right? Naturally. Coming to the design part of it, we are going through currently, there is an explosion. Say, the first design school established in 1963, we have brought in the best of the approach and best of the people from around the world, Charles and Reims coming and establishing it. But then DJ Academy set up in 2013, and afterwards, during that 3-year span, there was an explosion of design schools. Because the external factor, the market is asking for more designers as products.
Okay.
So that is, some design schools have taken an approach which is actually producing the employees suitable for those kind of jobs, which is actually in turn is fueled by the pull from the market. Because again, from like in 2000, we needed software developers to solve the Y2K problem and everything else. So it doesn't matter whether there are few computer science people. We took anyone with analytical skills and made them into a computer science engineer. Similarly, now the institutions or organizations are also focusing on producing these different methods and tools. People are familiar with methods and tools, but not the approaches. So that is where it's kind of a vicious cycle in a sense that organizations see that, like that is companies as organizations see that what other organizations are doing. So I think companies should have a good approach to identify those candidates, not judged by the experience alone, but by their skill set, and then go with that.
Right. Students, it's open to you.
Students, you all have access. So there is one question in the chat box, one by Mr. Abhinath. He's asking, how does design research differ from market research, and what are the attributes that differentiate them?
Mm-hmm. So here also we could just, if we, the specific nitty-gritty of it, I would leave it to Google, because it would actually give you more points than I do. But the main differentiators of a market research and a design research is in the approach itself. Market research takes a quantitative approach. What is the right price? How many? What is the market size? What are the right feature set? And so on. Whereas the design research takes the qualitative approach to start with. Like, what are the things people like? What are the things people would appreciate? What kind of things that they have in their homes as like, and what is their spending capacity? There are different things that, so this approach itself, quantitative and qualitative itself, sets the tone of the different researchers. But then very specifically what they achieve, I would leave it to the experts out there. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, sir.
If I may,
yes,
we were talking about the psychological factors. Design, when it comes to a product, say vis-a-vis a service or a business process, we need, it's easier to build in a feedback loop, which will help to again further refine the design, whole design itself, when it comes to a service or a process. So how can we build this feedback loop, which will help us to refine the design? I mean, can you give us an example of that?
Yes, very good point. And now you've given me an opportunity to take one thing which I have not shown. So when we talk about because I just talked about the business model very simply, and then there I said, like, we need to maintain the customer relationships, because now the market currently, the main thing is, earlier there was a need for options in the market. So anything that is available in the market is actually taken. We don't really care about the feedback and so on. But now the economy has changed to basically, there are multiple things, and then they would go for the best. And we as the companies want to actually deliver the product and service that is actually appreciated, and we have to have the feedback loop. So while we're doing the business model, we need to establish what kind of a channels that we need to get that collect that feedback from. Okay, if we're talking about a physical product, we have to see basically what are the things that people do with a particular physical product or a service, in a sense, and then where all they actually can give that feedback to us. Do we actually have a helpline? Do we actually call them? Do they have a web interface, even though they are using a physical product? And then what are the things that how do we collect that particular feedback? What kind of support process? What do we?
ஒரு கொஞ்ச நாள் தான் போட்டிருப்பேன், அது ஷர்ட் எல்லாம் தேடி எடுத்துட்டு.
ஓகே,
யூனிஃபார்ம் வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் அது எல்லாத்தையும் அப்படியே விட்டுட்டேன் ஃப்ரீயா.
Tiraman, who is this?
Then we need to.
Vimal, sir. Vimal, I've asked him.
Okay.
So we have to basically identify the channels. No problem, sir. So we need to identify the channels, and then we need to see what we actually can do with that, and then we see what kind of actions that we take, and that has to be back to the customer. And then we basically see that if we need to improve any of those things by adding different roles and so on, we basically add those things. So what I'm showing here is basically a service design method. That's what we would be using to basically see how we actually get this feedback of a customer who's either not so sad, but something which is not good, and make them feel happy, is to take the feedback which you're talking about, ma'am, and then give them our service back. So you would, it's also like a catch 22 here. Like if the customer knows that we really want the feedback, they would give the feedback. They would give the feedback if they know that the feedback giving mechanism is simpler. And then we have ways to act on it, and then again make the customer feel that we have acted on it. So the first step basically is have this kind of a mechanism, and then see in a product what is the suitable way to put that feedback mechanism incorporated into the design. When it comes to digital things, it's very easy. When it comes to physical things,
Right.
we can also make it now that they are connected. Now with all the connected cars and so on, we can collect the data, analytics and telematics.
This is a very interesting screen, the information flow and all that. Thank you so much, Sisirnath. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
I have one more question. I'll ask at the end. Okay.
Okay. So,
Students, you all have access. You can just unmute and come in.
Sisir,
maybe I actually have, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us any path-breaking design innovations in the last 1 or 2 years which you have come across? It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be a communication, whatsoever. Something which you have come across.
Okay. I can take, say, a couple of Indian examples very briefly. I'll just name them and then say if you guys are interested in knowing more about those, I will jump inside.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, this approaches actually reveal themselves in wonderful ways. We don't really know what actually happened, but they kind of just click sometimes.
Yeah.
As I said, people, if they are really good in their skill set, they can take a method and then they can work with it. So one of those things, if you take in the Indian context, is, say, Flipkart when it comes to a new organization in the Indian context. And we talk about the other concept. Everyone talks about the Apple. So there also I would talk about one example. So when it comes to the Flipkart part, what actually Flipkart has addressed, what kind of an approach Flipkart has taken compared to other e-commerce sites, which actually made them gain that market traction? Anyone?
Yeah.
If anyone wants to guess or suggest.
Rohit, are you there? He has done a project on Flipkart. Can you just come in, Rohit?
It is internship, am I right?
Yeah, yes. Rohit?
Well, then my guesswork would fail. But okay, please, Rohit.
Okay.
Rohit, can you unmute?
Okay, then maybe I can.
I'm not sure. Okay.
Is he there?
He's there, but I think there is some mistake.
Okay. Please go ahead, Sisir.
Okay. Yeah. So the approach that they've taken, they have focused on multiple approaches. When we talk about the e-commerce, and specifically in India, multiple players try to start up and set up. And we also have heard that, okay, they come from Amazon, they learned a lot and so on. But still, it is successful because they just not only focused on the e-commerce side of it, but they have actually taken an approach of solving the complex logistics problem of India.
Okay.
To be able to get a traction, because it's not like, you can sell it for cheaper price, as we talked about. I can just bring back to that particular slide. It's not just the price part of it. It's not the
Yes.
assortment that you have on the things. It's not about the marketing thing. They need to basically feel that I want to buy from you.
Yeah.
And that they have actually paid attention in terms of solving. No matter what, where you are in India, we would solve by the now I don't remember the name of it. They have some cart something,
E-cart.
a logistic e-cart. Thank you, sir.
E-cart. Yeah.
E-cart. Yeah. So they've actually established that, taken that approach and solved all of those things, and then kind of given them the say the want, or say the need, like, okay, you can come to us because we will deliver it very easily, very simple. At the same time, we also have good products, we have a good price.
Yeah.
That's one example from the Indian market.
Okay.
Then taking the Apple, so one of the things that recently Apple launched the latest iPhone and Macs and everything else. One of the announcement, it's also like you have to take, Apple is the master of combining these approaches and doing these things, and every company talks about it, but unfortunately they take up their methods and tools and they cannot understand the approaches that they so one of the things that when they did announced about the new iPhone, they said that they started with a very nice introduction. They didn't say that you're not going to get a charger, you're not going to get a headphones. Okay, they said we are focusing heavily on environmental impact and all of those things. So that's the basis for our decision to reduce the packaging and not give you these connectors and these things.
Okay.
Wonderful. As a customer, what do you think? That actually, what is there actually? What are they prospecting for? If I could ask, are they prospecting for a world like in a better world with less parts and so on? Probably. But what they're actually prospecting is higher profits, still keeping the acceptance. How they would come to the higher profits? Reduce the number of parts, reduce the operational cycles, reduce the manufacturing costs, reduce the transportation costs. So with one unified message still addressing to the wants of the users, they are able to save so much of money and still deliver the value to the users. That's a very, it fascinates every time they communicate. It's fascinating. There's so many layers to peel off from Apple. But any other example, if you guys, there are multiple examples I can talk about, but these are the two that I want to talk about in the Indian and global context.
Excellent. Okay.
Sir, I have a question. So generally, multinationals are driven by a lot of compliance process. So how does compliance becomes a hindrance in terms of implementing design when multinational companies operate in countries like India?
Actually, when it comes to design and compliance or standards, for example, that's actually one of the best standards there is for any domain. Because when you talk about engineering standards and so on, it's also very much rooted in a long timeline and also a lot of standards for manufacturing and other things. So you have to follow very specific measurements or specific approaches and tools and so on. When it comes to design, as it is a qualitative way, you're dealing with people. So there is only a prescription of how you should actually solve when it comes to standards and complaints. The rest is left to the practitioners to interpret. Same with the some other fields like this. Like say if you take the medical part of it, there are a lot of complaints about the tools and methods, but not about the practice approach itself, because that is what they count on, the experience and the seasoned professionals in a sense to do that. So when it comes to organizations, multinational companies, taking design as a mix of those product development and services, the standards and recommendations are actually in their favor if they use it. If they want to go that way, that would be an amazing way. If they don't want to include designers to start with, they can at least start with the ISO standards or other standards that are out there. They're only going to be helpful.
Thank you, sir.
if I may ask my question, the other question I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
this is not, yeah. This has to do with basically with design. I'm very interested in colors, all about colors, the shades, and how it impacts people, and a whole lot of stuff to do with it. So this is basically a question on your presentation, it's that you used a black background. Generally, people say, when you have this negative image, reverse image, and all that, like white on a black background, it's not good for the eye. Even if you have colors that pop out, it does pop out on a black background. So, what is your rationale for this? Is this your design, whatever whimsy, or is it because that you had a particular thing in mind to create this presentation? No doubt, it was, I wouldn't call it hard on the eyes. It was very interesting, colorful, and all that. But generally, colors are white on a black background is not that much accepted. So I just wanted to know your rationale behind.
Thank you for asking. I need to spill the secrets out now. The actual thing is, it has to do with the certain tools I'm comfortable with or not, actually, very honestly speaking.
Yeah.
I'm good with approaches and certain methods, but when it comes to tools, I'm not so comfortable with. That is basically, if I have to communicate the same message by using the other tools, to even just do this part, I have to do quite a lot of work on doing that, and that's something that I'm not so comfortable in terms of putting it. So I thought, like, okay, how could I still make it interesting? Because if I were talking with the students in a classroom, or that's what usually I do. I basically have, even in my home now, I have this whiteboard on the side. You could see probably there. That's a whiteboard. So I'm very comfortable to talk on the whiteboard and then draw things. So I thought, like, let's draw, and then let's make this presentation as if I'm actually talking on a blackboard. Okay, because now whiteboard is a new thing. But I thought, like, let's go back to blackboard and then see how it comes out. And that was the thing, ma'am. It's actually a shorthand of certain tools, and also an approach that I've taken, kind of a blackboard, and try to still make it cover it up with my experience.
What I found was there's an organic feel to the whole thing, It wasn't like, it was very organic, and usually I'm not a very good, I'm not very happy with watching presentations on a black background, but there was something about it which was very organic and appealing. I mean, this is the positive feedback I wanted to give you, because but I wanted to understand your rationale behind it, and whether this sort of thinking is coming into design these days, because I personally feel colors play a lot of impact without us realizing it, especially when it comes to branding and all that. So what is your opinion on this colors?
Yeah, so now you know the secrets of my thing, and they're like kind of cashed on. But then coming to the colors and the current things, in the digital side of it, this trend is coming with a different, say, a method that people are taking, or say some are doing black because they say that it is good for screens because they consume less power.
Okay.
When it comes to the print and so on, it consumes a lot of ink, so they are not going there. But still, black is always the new thing, right? And it always shows that finesse when it comes to designing and so on. So if we just take the result part of it and then apply that, I've seen happening in some places as well. But then it's always good to, as I said, coming back to the initial question, as you rightly put, what am I trying to communicate using this black or colors or white or whatever to my audience? Is there a specific purpose, as you asked me, ma'am, rightly? If they actually ask that when they're prospecting, and if the answer is still black, they should do it. And hope that's what they're prospecting when we see all of these products out there. But in generally, in the digital side, the black theme is very common nowadays because of the power consumptions, and it is the new design directions also that many companies are taking.
That's very interesting because usually websites also I'm seeing a lot of this negative, you know, negative image sort of thing happening. And thank you so much, Mr. Sisirnath, for your patient answering. And it was a very, I personally felt very invested in your presentation. And thanks, DJ Academy, for the invite. Yeah. End of
Thank you.
questions.
I really like interacting and then sharing whatever. So now I probably would call up names of the students if you guys don't mind, because you have to tell me, because if you're in the class, I probably would see your faces and see someone is smiling, frowning, and then maybe trying to escape the room, which is hard to do in the digital side. So you guys can tell me what it felt like, or let's start with one simple question. Why did you guys choose MBA? Can anyone answer why you chose MBA?
Guys, are you there?
Yeah, Shanmugapriya, you want to say? You have the access.
Maybe it's dragging also a little 1.5 hour.
This is Karthik, sir, from MBA second year.
Yeah, Karthik, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm not well known about the design fields. This gave me an outlook about the design. Then regarding the MBA is a generalized. Why we took MBA? Since it is a generalized and it gives many opportunities in future. We have that time in the 2 years period. We will be having many. We will receive many opportunities to come to develop our personality, to get into get more skills, which is a generalized structure in any sort of work. It will make us able to fit to it. So that only my preference is MBA.
Well, thank you very much for your response. I think I just basically wanted to summarize with that basically, no matter what course I was not pointing out MBA or such, all of us are equally important to contribute to the organization's meaning, its purpose, and its profit. And together, all of us work as an ecosystem, and taking that approach is what you and all of us need to take back with us. And with that, I say thank you very much for your time. Almost close to.
Sisir, while you're closing it, I'm just coming in.
Shanmugam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Identified your voice.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks so much. Sisir, your presentation was good. And one point I just make in this forum where if you could say that how an MBA and the designer, if they collaborate, how the collaboration could be, and how each roles could contribute to each other. So since we interact with each other on those angles, right? I just wanted you to throw those lights to the students as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shanmugam, asking for that question. So MBA is also like it's a broader domain of business, right? So a particular professional of graduating from MBA could end up in any one of the specializations that management or business offers. You could go to financing, you could go to marketing, you could go to HR, you could go to various other things. So depending upon which micro or say which smaller ecosystem of the bigger ecosystem you are actually collaborating, the results would vary. Take an example of HR, and you're collaborating with a designer, but not maybe a general designer. You have defined the prospect, what you want to prospect for, what you want as a result. Then you're thinking, okay, can I bring in a design approach into this one? Then you would actually contact the particular designer. and let's say the prospect is change of mindset within the company. That could be a HR thing. Okay, the result is continuous learning. That's what the HR organization, and maybe that's driven by some management specialist, right? Then you come to the design side of it. So then the designer can bring in the perspective. Good. I understand the prospect. I understand the result. Now, what I would bring into this thing is the behavioral science of it, especially from the corporate side of it, and then see how we can actually work with this behavioral part with the perks that HR has, and then build something around it in terms of communication and encouraging them. That would be one example of business people within organizations working for under HR organization and designers if they collaborate. Product I talked a lot about. Service also I talked a lot about. And if you want to take any other example, I can take. But then it's again, every particular ecosystem or say the approach that you would have or an organization within an organization or whatever, or every organization could benefit from other approaches. So there is always a chance that you could take just asking another person with a different approach, what can you do for me? Because maybe it's not a decided answer. There could be multiple things, and maybe someone who is a designer outside is much more competent than me, who can come up with maybe the 11th way, even invent a new way. I don't know.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you very much for your time. It's great listening to you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. It's our pleasure too. Shall we formally wrap it up, Cesar?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Just 1 minute, sir. Sisir, this is Captain Sindhil here. So we look forward, whenever you are next time in India, please do drop in and come to our campus. And we would like to welcome you. And first of all, thanks for taking time out interacting with our students. We always feel proud when we interact with our alumni. Thank you very much for your time and sparing all the efforts taken, Sisir.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been, as I said, it's a deja vu for me, even though I'm not in the physical campus. Because back then, about 15 years ago, I spoke with my hostel mates and batchmates at MBA because I thought you are going to actually be my manager, so you need to understand what I do. So let's sit together and talk. That's what I did.
Okay.
I'm doing the same thing again. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Excellent. Shri Raman?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Indeed, it was a wonderful session. Let me now invite Dvaitya from First MBA to formally give the vote of thanks. Dvaitya?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, very much.
Okay, then. A very good evening to all. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Let me first of all start by thanking the Almighty for blessing us abundantly and making today's occasion a resounding success. First and foremost, I thank our special guest, Mr. Sisirnath Sangireddy, Creative Lead, Interaction Design, Epiroc AB, Sweden. We are extremely grateful to our director, Dr. AJV Narayanan, for his words of encouragement. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Captain Senthil Kumar and the faculties for the valuable contribution and guidance in all our efforts. Last but not the least, I thank my seniors, friends, and participants from other institutions for your cooperation in making today's program a resounding success. Thank you.